The apostles said to the Lord, "Increase our faith." And the Lord replied, "If you had faith the size of a mustard seed, you could say to this mulberry tree, 'Be uprooted and planted in the sea,' and it would obey you. Who among you would say to your slave who has just come in from plowing or tending the sheep in the field, 'Come here at once and take your place at the table'? Would you not rather say to him, 'Prepare supper for me, put on your apron and serve me while I eat and drink, and later you may eat and drink'? Do you thank the slave for doing what was commanded? So you also, when you have done all that you were ordered to do, say, 'We are worthless slaves. We have done only what we ought to have done.'" The gospel of our Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
Please be seated.
What?
In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Oh, and Gary, too, the other thing we've been doing is we've been collecting coffee cards. We'll give each of those later. Okay, but Megan, do we have any idea what the tally is on the contest that we were doing between these? I put you on the
No,
spot.
we're going to put up a chart.
Okay.
But
So if you have a favorite coffee place. As you heard the lesson that we just read, you know, Jesus does have this way of kind of reaching into our lives and bothering the things that we just simply assume are the way things are. You know, a couple of weeks ago, he tackled the issue of wealth and money and that you can't serve two masters. And we're sitting here going, can't we get on to other things like being good and following the rules, and I don't drink and I don't chew and I'm not seen with those who do. Make it easier for us, Jesus. Make it fit into my understanding of where our society is. And now, oh man, Jesus, you did it again. Because we kind of live for the thank you, don't we? I mean, Coach Leach talked about it, and you may or may not agree with what he had to say, but he said, you know, we live in a society where everyone gets a trophy. And how many of you have received trophies for doing nothing? Well, maybe participating, or, you know, I'm not going to ask for hands because if you didn't, it would be so sad. Because everyone. And we kind of get to that point, and boy, you should have heard the pastors were wrestling with this one, because you know everybody was sitting around the table down at Cafe Moro, and they were going, "Well, this doesn't sound very nice." And Catholic priest Al from, "Well, I'd kind of like a thank you, you know, when the time comes." It reminded me of a story that I heard in St. Petersburg, St. Petersburg, Russia, not Florida. But in St. Petersburg, when they talked about two people who had passed away, and one was an Orthodox priest, and he got to heaven, and it was nice enough, and, you know, kind of what he expected it to be like. But he saw this other man who was not a priest at all, and was just kind of this ordinary bloke, and so this man walked up to St. Peter, and he said, "This is not, you know, if you're an Orthodox priest, you're like, whoa, you know, big deep voice, and you sing bass. What's below bass?
Basso profundo.
Basso profundo, yes. You're Orthodox, so you have a basso profundo voice." And he said, "St. Peter, why? Why am I living in these quarters? But this man has a great flat. It's awesome. It's wonderful." And St. Peter said, "Well, Father, it goes this way. When you preached, people slept." Wake up. "When you preached, people slept. But this man was a taxi driver in St. Petersburg. And when he drove, people prayed. And they got close to God." We have this attitude, we have this feeling that we should kind of at least be thanked, that we should kind of get what we deserve, and that we should have things come rolling back to us. But God is really clear in all of this, that that is not the way things work at all. In fact, almost to the flip. A friend of mine was writing a little bit of a thing, and he said, when I was a kid, I used to love to pretend like I was a dinosaur. Any of you guys like to pretend when you were kids? Kids, do you like to pretend like you're dinosaurs? Yeah. And he said, my favorite dinosaur was I would be a T-Rex. And so I'd make my arms short, and I would walk around, and I would terrorize all the cats in the neighborhood. Roar! I guess I'm not very scary. Terrorize all the animals in the neighborhood, and people lived in fear of me. He said, then one day, my dad came up to me and he said, you know, Bobby, he said, it's time for you to put away childish things. You gotta stop doing that. You're 17 now. Can you please go out and just get a job? I was told when I was younger to put away childish things. And maybe childish, but not childlike. Jesus comes back on us all the time. And he's saying, you know, you guys have kind of set this thing up where you think that you know what the rules are all about. You think that you are supposed to be, well, I'm an adult now. I deal with things very, also profundo. I deal with things on a very, thoughtful and rational way. Well, it doesn't take us very long to realize that no matter how grown up you are, there are still people that deal with things in a very childish way, which is not a good thing. But I've also learned that, doggone it, I'm trying to find a place in there somewhere where there comes a time, too, where you realize that there's an incredible amount of wisdom in the childlike. And realizing that sometimes what we do as adults is that we kind of put all of these things on everybody else, whereas kids, for the most part, just simply accept people for who they are. Have fun with life as it comes their way. And they're not there always kind of sorting things out, but they're just kind of looking at things and accepting things and embracing and enjoying life. I mean, how many of you bought wonderful and beautiful presents for your kids at Christmas only to realize with horror that they were having more fun playing with the wrappings than they were with the toys? Because they can look at things and they can just see the wonder and the joy of what's in front of them. I know, Siggy, hit a nerve, yeah. Jesus says over and over again, and somehow we just have to hear it over and over again, that we like to think that it's the size of things that matters. Oh Lord, if I only had faith. Lord, fill me up with faith. And in a big way, what Jesus is saying in this gospel lesson that we have for today is, you've got enough. What's stopping you? Oh Lord, if I only had faith like Mother Teresa, then, you see, that would be the thing that would put me over the top, and suddenly I could live this incredible and saintly life. And if you read the biography of Mother Teresa, you find out she struggled like the dickens through her whole life. She had like one moment where everything became clear, but then the rest of it was just doubt and angst and trying to wrestle with it. But rather than fussing with she needed more, I need more, she just took what she had and then just simply did something with it. Why do we have animals in church? We have animals in church today. No, it's okay. Come here. Are you good? You like my stool? Can I pick you up? Oh, mercy. Hi. We have animals in church today because they help keep us human. We have animals in church today because they show us, in ways often far deeper than anything else, what it means to be willing to care for the least of these. When that time comes that your life is looked at, God's not going to say, "What grand, wonderful things did you do?" But God will say, "You showed your humanity in caring for the least of those among you, the most vulnerable, the most open, those that could be hurt most easily, and you cared." Another story is told of a man who had a dream. And in the dream he was with his dog, and they're walking along, and all of a sudden they come to these incredible pearly gates, and he realizes, "I've died. First of all, I've died because I realized that the dog that I'm walking with, I haven't seen for like 30 years. And he walks up to these grand pearly gates, and he walks up, and there's this magnificent angel standing at the gate. And the man walks up and he says, "Can we come in?" And the angel says, "You may come in, but your dog has to stay behind." And really kind of struck him funny, so he said, "Well, I'll come back a little later." And so he went walking down the path a little bit further and came up to another set of gates, just as beautiful, just as magnificent. Incredible angel, once again, standing in front of the gates. And the man walks up and he says, "Can we come in?" And he says, "Yes, come on in, both of you." And the man said, "Well, I was at another place that looked just like this." But the angel said, "Friend, that was hell. And that was your little..." If you were willing to leave behind your best friend, one who trusted you, one that you cared for, then you deserved the other place. It's just a reminder that life is not about that which is grand and glorious and huge. But life, as Jesus sees it, is about the least of these, whom we find in our care and needing our love. Amen. A little bit of a typo in the insert. We turn now to page 13. Page 13 in your worship folders. Please stand as we join together in singing without singing.